We all want to stay in the know, especially when it comes to our money. With the U.S. Bank Smartly Suite, you take control and make confident money moves while staying connected to your finances. The U.S. Bank Smartly Suite lets you bundle your checking, savings, and credit card in one place, working together to give you more. As part of the U.S. Bank Smartly Suite, you'll unlock tailored rates and rewards just by bundling your accounts. Switch today and get financial tools built to grow with you. When our Bank Smartly solutions meet your financial goals, we are stronger together. That's the power of us. Member FDIC.
And Doug.
Here we have the Limu Emu in its natural habitat, helping people customize their car insurance and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Fascinating. It's accompanied by his natural ally, Doug.
Limu? Is that guy with the binoculars watching us?
Cut the camera. They see us.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Savings vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.
Hey everyone, Ray here with another book recommendation. By the time the Nazis had overtaken Paris, French artist Henri Matisse was already an enemy of the Third Reich. In his quest to dominate not just territory, but culture, Hitler declared avant-gardism to be degenerate art, guilty of cultural disintegration, and this included the works by Matisse. The artist would defy the Nazis by continuing to make vibrant, hopeful, colorful art that can now be found in every major art center around the world. Matisse's family, too, would find their own methods of undermining Hitler's tyranny. From acclaimed author Christopher Gorham, Matisse at War, Art and Renaissance in Nazi-occupied France is a skillfully told story of an icon of the French resistance and his family's role. Matisse's daughter, Marguerite, was bold and daring as her father, and she would ferry intelligence from Rennes to Bordeaux, both cities, under German occupation. She would be arrested and tortured by the Gestapo. The family matriarch, Amélie, in her 70s, was fortified by her open contempt for the Nazis and their art thievery. She, too, was betrayed and arrested. A must-read for history buffs and art lovers, sweeping from Paris to Provence, from New York to Berlin. World War II historian Alex Kershaw calls this a mesmerizing story of artistic genius, a gutsy family, and defiance of tyranny in the face of evil. Matisse at War from Kensington Books is available everywhere books are sold, and you can learn more at ChristopherCGorham.com. Hello, and thank you for listening to The History of World War II podcast, episode 570, Rommel's Last Offensive. Last time, though Rommel's attacks north towards Thala and west towards Tebessa had failed, it still gained him the Kasserine Pass. Further, as Kesselring preferred him to von Arnim, Rommel also acquired the position of Commander, Army Group Africa. That Rommel did not want the position didn't matter. It was his. Welcome to the Army. The question now for Rommel was how to keep the American forces to his northwest at bay while he dealt with Monty to his southeast. Or rather, how would he deal with Monty, who was trying to deal Rommel his death stroke? The second part of the message from Rome that had promoted Rommel also said that Italian General Messa was now the commander of the 1st Italian Army, which had been the Panzer Army. Thus, the 10th and 21st Panzer Divisions would pull back towards the coast, refit, and then, under Messa, defend the Meerth line. And the Africa Corps Assault Group would also head to Meerth. The rest of the Axis forces would line up once again along the eastern dorsal mountains, setting up their defensive line by guarding the passes. And lastly, as the Allies had pulled units from further north to help stave off Rommel's latest attack, that position to the north was now weaker. Thus, von Arnim was to mount major raids at any opportunity. Such was the defensive posture of the Allies during this latest clash. It took them 48 hours to even realize the Germans had pulled back. They were gone. So, warily moving forward, the American and British forces retook most of what they had just lost, like the Kasserine Pass on February 24th. A few days later, they had inched back to where they were or had been at the other passes. During the time it took to regain what they had lost, the American commanders, and this took courage, analyzed what had went wrong. No one's ego was spared, which is rare. But this was not to punish the commanders who had failed, but rather, what was it about that position, vis-a-vis its layout and composition, that allowed it to fail? Whatever was needed would be corrected. But what is often missed, though it has to remain in the what-if category of history, was how close the Germans and Italians came to pushing back the Allies in Tunisia. What if Rommel and von Arnim had been of one accord? What if, with their differences aside, von Arnim had pushed hard during Rommel's almost successful attack in trying to expand his hold? Either those reinforcing units would have not been sent south, or, as they were, von Arnim would have been up against reduced forces, had he pressed hard. But he did not, and the rift still existed among the Axis high command. Though the moment had passed, there had been a moment where the Allies could have been thrown into chaos. But getting back to the Axis rift, not only did von Arnim not accept the directive from the Commando Supremo, not only did he not send his panzer divisions to General Messy, as instructed, but von Arnim then flew to Rome, not telling Rommel or asking Rommel, now his direct superior, to propose his own attack to Kesselring, who, for reasons that defy logic, as he had already recently fought for Rommel to be in overall command, approved von Armin's attack in the north. Thus, on February 26, von Armin's Operation Ochsenkopf got underway. To the far north, near the coast, the Manteuffel Division would push west and capture the radar installation at Cape Surat, while Weber's 334th Division, with 14 Tiger and 63 medium tanks just below the Manteuffel Division, would also push west and capture Sidi Nazir. And lastly, the Hermann Goering Division would take Medjez. This would push the Allies back, losing them the territory along the coast, further inland, and give the Axis breathing room. When Rommel heard of this plan, his only question was, why in the hell hadn't von Arnim launched this when he, Rommel, had been in the middle of his attack? It could have overwhelmed the Allies up and down the line. Operation Ochsenkopf was successful. At first, it gained ground, but the plethora of weapons the Allies had, something that Rommel openly wished he had, proved to be too much in the end. Though the inexperienced 46th British Division close to the coast gave ground, the experienced 78th British Division under them did not. Thus, the Germans could not go as far west as they wanted to because their southern flank would have been threatened. As for the Hermann Goering Division, it was held at bay rather easily by the 6th British Armored Division. On February 28th, 2 days after Operation Ochsenkopf had commenced and soon ended, Rommel was inwardly smiling at von Armin's failure, while trying to work out a spoiling attack plan against Monty's 8th Army, as it was clearly building up for its next lunge. Hey everyone, Ray here. Do you honestly think that you are the only one struggling with ED? Please, you're not. In fact, 40% of men experience ED by the age of 40. But now there's an easier way to fix it, all from your home. No awkward conversations, no doctor's office. Let RexMD, an online telehealth service that helps men get real FDA-approved ED medications, help you regain your confidence. Here's how it works. First, ED meds are not one size fits all. But RexMD has you covered with options. You'll tell them what's going on, your health history, and what you're looking for through a short quiz. Then a U.S. licensed provider will review your information and prescribe a medication, if appropriate. Your treatment will be sent to you with free 2-day delivery. That's it. It's that easy. and the Rex MD team is there for any questions you have. And again, just know you'll be one of at least 450,000 men going through the same thing. But they're taking the bull by the horns. What are you waiting for? These are the good years. Now, make them better. And you can get up to 95% off ED treatment with Rex MD. Visit rexmd.com/WW2. This is going to change everything. When the Americans were losing the Kasserine Pass, Monty was asked to attack the outposts of the Meureth line, hoping this would make the Germans either fall back or be less aggressive, as their rear was threatened. Monty was not happy about this. He did not want to do this. It disrupted his plans, but he agreed, moving General Lee's 30th Corps up closer, despite the still recovering Tripoli harbor, which could not yet sufficiently process his needed supplies, which made Monty vulnerable, and he knew it. But hopefully, this would all work out. In fact, it was at Tripoli that Monty's closest supporting division was located, the experienced 2nd New Zealand Division. Thus, Rommel had his opportunity to hit a part of the 8th Army unsupported by the rest of it. Italian General Mess's plan, presented to Rommel, was thus. Africa Corps, meaning the 10th, 15th, and 21st Panzer Divisions, led by General Kramer, would attack Medellin from the west-southwest. Now, Medellin is about 10 miles from the coast and is about 15 miles south of the Meureth line, serving as Monty's front line, and it sits close to the Axis southern outposts. Meanwhile, north of Medellin, a mixture of German and Italian units called Columbari would make sure that the Allies could not travel in that direction, and being trapped, they would then be pushed into the sea by the panzers or forced to retreat, leaving much of their equipment behind. And this would force a delay for the 8th Army, as all that lost equipment would have to be replaced. This would give time for the Axis Africa forces to then turn north and deal another blow to the enemy there. But for all the possibilities, should this work, Rommel was left unenthusiastic, but went along with it anyway, as his panzer commanders assured him they could pull it off. And yet, the British intercepted Axis radio messages, thanks to Ultra, and air reconnaissance reported to Monty what was coming their way. Not about to lose what he had achieved, Monty moved into high gear. He called the New Zealanders forward. He had the 8th Armored Brigade and the 201st Guards Brigade support the now targeted 30th Corps, and lastly, he told General Lee, be ready to hold out until help arrive, which would be on March 4th. 30th Corps had to hold out until then. And understanding this, Lee positioned his troops in an arc around Medellin. To his north was now the Highland Division, and in front of them were 70,000 mines. To the Highlands left, further south, as this was an arc, was the 22nd Armored Brigade. To their left was the 201st Guards Brigade, which left space due west of Medellin for the 2nd New Zealand Division, should they arrive in time. As for Medellin itself, it was shielded by the 4th Light Armored Brigade. But taking a risk that was deemed acceptable, Lee was holding back his 3 armored brigades in reserve. This was to be a defensive fight for the 8th Army and would be conducted by anti-tank guns and infantry. If the defense was successful, only then would the British tanks counterattack. The 8th Armored was behind the Highlanders, the 22nd Armored was behind the 7th Armored Division, and the 4th Light Armored at Medellin would be behind the New Zealanders, who were rushing up. Taking another risk, again deemed acceptable, each brigade section had anti-tank guns, mostly 6-pounders or 57-millimeter guns, supported by 2-pounders or 40-millimeter guns, and they were set up or aimed not to support the infantry, but to destroy the approaching panzers. For Leese knew to kill panzers was to kill the Axis attack plan. Still, this left somewhat his infantry to defend themselves. Now, the 6-pounders could penetrate 68 millimeters of armor at 1,000 yards, and it seemed that was about to be tested. The rest of the front, besides the Highlanders, had few mines and no barbed wire, but were well camouflaged and could not be detected until about 300 yards away. Then the Allies caught a break. 8th Army's intelligence intercepted the message that said March 6th was the attack date, which meant the New Zealanders would be in position on time. The problem was the British did not know from which direction the main assault would come, and there were sure to be feints. The dominant theory was that the main attack would come from the north, from the Mareth line. They were wrong. Before sunrise on March 6th, the panzers were spotted coming their way. To the northwest and slightly more to the west, the panzers were seen approaching. German artillery opened up from these directions, hoping to scare the British units to go back. It did not work, for the 51st and 7th Armored knew something the Germans did not, namely that their well-hidden comrades with their anti-tank guns were in between themselves and the panzers, who, it seemed, still had no idea how close they were, but they were about to. As the sun started coming up, more panzers were spotted to the west of Medellin, as the 15th Panzer came from the 11 o'clock position relative to Medellin, but would end up turning to the northeast. The 21st Panzer from the 10 o'clock position, and lastly, the 10th Panzer from the 9 o'clock position, or due west of the city. But the panzer commanders' collective sense of dread was starting to bother them, as they stopped a few times before coming more forward. The 10th Panzer found out why first, as they came within 400 yards of the hidden New Zealanders. The latter's anti-tank guns opened up. The first salvo they had took out 5 panzers. Just above the 10th, the 21st Panzer ran into the 201st Guards and lost 3 tanks straight away and another 12 soon after. But it was the 21st Panzer Division that really pushed its attack, hoping to break this defensive line. And for their pains, the 3 Queens battalions of the 131st Brigade took out 27 panzers before the day was over. As the fighting here was close quarter, a squadron of Sherman tanks were called up, and they participated in the only tank-on-tank fighting that took place that day. Everywhere else, it had been anti-tank guns and infantry that did the job. As Rommel had done so many times before to the Western Desert with his 88s, the Allies were now giving as good as they got. Tanks have their place, of course, but so too do anti-tank guns. Further, sometimes the best offense is a good defense with 6-pounders.
Hi, I'm Matt Albers, host of the Pirate History Podcast. The men and women of the golden age of piracy are some of the most infamous and often misunderstood characters in all of human history. You know their names: Captain Morgan, Anne Bonny, Henry Avery, Mary Read, Captain Kidd, Blackbeard. But do you know their stories, their real stories? Every week over on the Pirate History Podcast, we explore the real lives of these pirates. We examine what made these pirates sail the high seas in search of plunder and adventure and revenge. The real stories are a lot more complex and a lot more interesting than the stories most of us have been told. If you'd like to hear the stories of the real men and women who went on the account and sailed under the black flag, join us on the Pirate History Podcast.
That night, the Germans tried to save as many damaged panzers as they could, but as every move made noise in the quiet desert, their attempts brought more shells. The Germans eventually gave up. As the Germans and Italians retreated back to the Mamata Hills to the northwest, Rommel wrote in his diary, "The attack had been launched a week too late. The operation had lost all point the moment it became obvious that the British were prepared for us. We have suffered tremendous losses, including 40 tanks totally destroyed. But the cruelest blow was the knowledge that we had been unable to interfere with Montgomery's preparations. A great gloom settled over us all." Whereas Monty wrote this, "It had been a great model defensive engagement and a great triumph for the infantry and anti-tank guns. Only one squadron of our tanks was actually engaged in the fighting, and we lost no tanks. 52 knocked out enemy tanks were left on the battlefield, and all but 7 had fallen to our anti-tank guns. Without wire or mines, our infantry, with strong artillery support, had repulsed an attack by 3 panzer divisions and incurred only minor losses in the process. Very great care had been taken in positioning our anti-tank guns, and it should be noted that they were sighted to kill tanks at point-blank range and not to defend the infantry. As for the Americans to the north, though they had lost 7,000 prisoners, 200 tanks, 110 guns, and 300 trucks in 10 days of the recent fighting, they were still in the fight, and they were still willing to learn. Not that the British would say this to their faces, but the Americans were still unable to tell what was possible and what was not on the battlefield. Not yet, but they had survived the winter and were learning. Meanwhile, more Allied forces were coming east from Casablanca, Oran, and Algiers. Greetings, everyone, from Central Virginia. So what this is going to turn out to be is the last time that Rommel's going to try and dominate the field with an attack plan versus just responding to the Americans and the British to the northwest and to the British Eighth Army in the southeast. So, yeah, I mean, you can only do so much with your reduced territory. You don't have enough weapons. You can't replace them. It's very hard for them to get replacements, especially tanks at this point. So the writing's on the wall, right? But the Axis has to do what they can do because that's how it is in war. Anyways, the story of Rommel, and as far as North Africa, is starting to come to an end. So anyways, I would like to say hello and thank you very much to my latest members. I think I'm most of the way through with the Greenland story, but there's still some twists and turns, and I'm enjoying it very much. And I've had a couple of people write in. It's a lot of fun to go through that story and tell it. Let's see here. So the latest members, Ben Amos from the UK. Thank you very much, Ben. And James Maloney from New Jersey. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Ben and James, James and Ben. So no donations this week, but that's okay. I'll just take money for my kids' college fund. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. And I'll see you. I've got several book interviews coming up. I'm going to just sprinkle them in here. Some good stories that I give you, maybe something for you to put on your Christmas list for Santa. Who knows? But anyways, so they'll be popping up throughout the month of October. But now that I'm trying very hard to do 2 episodes a week, it won't stop the overall narrative. And I know that's what you want because that's what I would want. So that's what we're going to do. Take care, everyone.
From the creators of the popular science show with millions of YouTube subscribers comes the Minute Earth podcast. Every episode of the show dives deep into a science question you might not even know you had. But once you hear the answer, you'll want to share it with everyone you know. Why do rivers curve? Why did the T-Rex have such tiny arms? And why do so many more kids need glasses now than they used to? Spoiler alert, it isn't screen time. Our team of scientists digs into the research and breaks it down into a short, entertaining explanation, jam-packed with science facts and terrible puns. Subscribe to Minute Earth wherever you like to listen.
Welcome to True Spies, the podcast that takes you deep inside the greatest secret missions of all time.
Suddenly, out of the darkness appeared Bin Laden.
You'll meet the people who live life undercover. What do they know? What are their skills? And what would you do in their position?
Vengeance felt good. Seeing these people pay for what they'd done felt righteous.
True Spies from Spyscape Studios, wherever you get your podcasts.